Have you seen the newest game console?
No. Has Dead Fred reviewed it?
Okay, so it's not the game console, but we have something here called the RG52 Mini, and it could very well be another game console. And this thing surprised me because, like, where did this come from? Because this is a little foreshadowing here, a very impressive handheld that really took me by surprise. Today, we're going to take a look at it, unbox it, and give my first impressions of the RG52 Mini. I don't know why it's called Mini, or as they're marketing it on Amazon, the RG56 Pro. Now, this features the Rockchip 3562, a legendary CPU that should have appeared way back on Magic X's XU Mini M. But we remember that scandal, don't we? Anyways, we do have it now, and we're going to take a look and find out how does this perform, how good is this, and who is this new company and what are they doing? Remember to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode of our awesome content. But let's get into this army green, well-designed, awesome hardware experience and find out, is this really worth the asking price of $80? Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the video, but I wanted to share with you today something that was sent over to us from the fine folks at Fifine. Now, many of you may have heard of Fifine. They make lots of great equipment, including the microphone I use here to record all of my wonderful videos. But they did send over an awesome headset that I wanted to take a look at, the H13. This is a headset that is styled for battle, powered by sound, as they say. It comes with awesome noise canceling, a 7.1 surround sound, 50mm dynamic driver, volume control, and 4 EQ modes. As you can see here, I did some testing on it and used it on the Save State podcast, and I found it to have super clear, really good sound quality, as well as microphone quality, which does not surprise me since they're known for that function. This is a beautiful headset that was comfortable to wear and has a lot of nice little effects like RGB with a smiley face on the side there. It comes at a really great price for all the features you get, including that awesome ability to do an equalizer with things like clear vocal, powerful bass, or dynamic enhancement. Hit the link below to check this out if you want to pick one up yourself. We want to thank Fifine for sending this over for us to take a look at it. We're really impressed with it. Again, the H13 is a great headset for all of your gaming and retro needs. It is a traditional headset with a wire. It's not wireless, but man, it is really great and sounds awesome on all your little retro doodads. Anyways, back to the show. And as always, we'll start with the box. And this is a nice box. I like this. It has a nice picture on the front with a background. The RG52 Mini. Now, we have seen this with a different name, the RG56 Pro, but we do have the Mini here. Built-in dual joysticks, vibrant ambient lighting, Hall linear trigger, wireless joystick support, and support network sparring. Okay, and 5,000 milliamp hour battery with 8 hours of battery life. That's very impressive if they can keep that up there. A rocker dazzle ambient. Moving to the side, and again, they really want us to know about this battery. We do have a 5,000 milliamp battery, long-lasting battery. So we'll see if we get a pretty good, decent battery life on this. Nothing else much on the other sides, but we do have the colorways. And it does come in 3 colors here, black, gray, and green. Looks like we got the green, which I'm excited about because I think that army green looks really good. But let's get this open and find out what's inside. We have a slide-out type box. And opening the box, we'll get the handheld out of the way here. And the first thing we have is a USB-C cable, USB A to C. So our basic cable right there on top. We'll move this little plastic out of the way. And below this, we do have a package here. Looks like a screen protector. This is the floppy kind of screen protector. So not, the great kind, but that's okay. And then we have a manual. And the manual again here, the RG52 Mini. It does have some information here, including, yes, the spec here. So we do have this Rock Chip 3562, which is pretty interesting. We have not really seen that CPU much, so we're going to test it out and try it. The manual is kind of basic, but it gives us what we need. But let's get this put all back together because, of course, we want to see how this handheld performs. I've been very excited for this and get this all boxed up, and we'll take a look at the handheld. All right, so first hands-on. When I first saw this in the pictures, I wasn't sure about this sort of industrial design. But picking this thing up immediately, I was very pleasantly surprised at how natural and great this feels in the hands. They have done a terrific job with not only getting the texture back here, but the curves. And I have sort of medium to small size hands. So for someone with larger hands, I may not have the same experience. But for me, holding this feels really good. It reminds me of the RG556 and how great that felt to hold when I first picked it up. But the other thing that's really impressive here is the aesthetics and design technique that we have here. This is a really nice looking handheld in person. I am really impressed with the build quality of the plastic, of how it feels. There are lots of little design techniques on this thing around, such as the vent on the back. This does have active cooling, and I like this design. It has a nice just shape to it, and the plastic again is really a nice quality. I was a little bit taken aback. We have nice little ridges all over this thing, textures everywhere. We have a color combination. These extra buttons are yellow on this green, this army green that looks fantastic with these gray buttons. It is just a very, very nice looking in person and well to hold handheld. We have these nice little riveted screw holes here that are a little different. Nice design touches on this thing, like the coloring here. We have yellow buttons with this army green, gray triggers, and even on the power button, there's a little red marking on this. It is a very remarkable and handsome looking handheld. Now, it has this design on the side, on the bezels, sort of like the D28 that we reviewed. I'm not sure if I like this or not. It is saying it's a 5.5-inch screen, but I think they're counting the bezels, and that takes up a little bit of the space of it. Now, the other handheld that this would match up to is the K56, and as I show them side by side, you can see that they're pretty equal, although this just feels a little more sleeker, a little more slimmer, and overall, I think it feels better to hold in the hand. While the K56 has a more powerful processor and can play games this cannot, I do think between the two, I like the way this feels in holding it. Now, moving on to the button testing and the buttons, I didn't think I would like them, but they're not bad. They're not my favorite buttons. If I was going to give this any kind of critiques, the two things are the buttons, while being nice and clear and independent, are a little bit shallow for me. They don't push down quite far enough. They feel a little mushy. But other than that, they're not so terrible, and I can use them to the extent. The other thing is, not only do we have a configuration more appropriate for a higher CPU, but the sticks are the switch style sticks. And in this day and age, we've seen so many companies switch over to the better sticks that we like, the Genful sticks, that I would have preferred to have seen those sticks on here to give it that extra push and touch. Now this D-pad, the D-pad really surprised me. I like this D-pad quite a bit. Again, nice design touch, has a little yellow to match there for the aesthetics of it. It's got a good pivot to it. It's got a good feeling to it. I like the material they used, and it's just overall a really good D-pad. Now, it's not perfect by any means, and something like a Retroid D-pad I would prefer over this, but I'd say it's as good as any Anbernic D-pad I've used in the past. Again, these 4 extra buttons are a little clicky. You can hear that. They're a little clicky, unlike the buttons for your X, B, A, and Y. Those are silent. But overall, I like it. The shoulder buttons are also great. We have analog trigger shoulder buttons here. I like them. I like the way this feels. Again, they're gray, giving a nice color offset to match the overall theme of this. It's just a beautiful handheld in hardware quality. All the buttons feel nice. They feel great. I like the position. And again, holding this is comfortable. Moving around the sides, we don't have anything on either side, which is okay. On the bottom, we do have an auxiliary port for your headphone jack. We do have one single TF card slot, since, you know, for this, I'd like to have two, but we have one. We do have a USB Type-C. Moving to the top, we do have a mini HDMI out. That's awesome. So we have that. Haven't seen that on our handhelds lately. We have our volume rocker, a reset button, and then that power button again that has that red and gray on it. So the back of it has that design with that exhaust, which I like. This is just a really nice, not too heavy, but solid feeling, good to hold handheld. Really impressed with the build of this handheld. But that being said, we're still working with a newer CPU. We don't know what it can do, and also what software this is. It's Linux based, I think. It doesn't mention Android, and it's not a touch screen, so I'm assuming it's going to be Linux. But let's get this thing booted up and see what we have inside. All right, now getting this thing booted up, and the first thing that I want to mention here is that the battery life on this thing actually has turned out to be pretty impressive. But we boot up into the RG52 mini screen here, and this is not a touchscreen, and it's Linux. And I was a little bit curious about what we would see here, and we do boot up into a version of Emuelec, which is, you know, got a sort of basic theme here. Now, the version that I did receive from the company. They have not seen this review ahead of time, and these are my own opinions. But unfortunately, even though it came with a card, it has this funky download system that they have in here, which I think is trying to make it easy for people to download games, but I found it to not work very smoothly. So one of the first criticisms I have of this handheld is that the software is junk. And you know how I feel about Emuelec anyways. Now, I should preface it by saying there are actually two softwares on here. You can switch between the softwares by holding down the power button, and you can see there's something called RG Box. Now, I'm in Emuelec, but if you go over to RG Box and hit the button and let it boot, it will switch over to a much more simpler sort of front end. And this one right here is, you know, was not set up for me. It has this download section, and it does have a bunch of list of games where you can download, but I found this to be just not straightforward, not really good. It has a nice little settings system here to kind of set things and everything, but overall I would stick with the Emuelec between the two, and I'm really kind of hoping that we can get some custom firmware on this thing, because again, this hardware is so nice. I really like the hardware. So playing through this and using this with Emuelec, we have our normal Emuelec settings. We can get into RetroArch and we can play games here. Now, the RK3562, the legendary RK3562, that we thought we were first going to see on the Magic X XU Mini M way back, and turned out not to be that chip. This is a chip that is a little bit slightly below the 3566 and the 3568 that we saw Ambernic just launch in their RGDS line. But the three of those chips, the 3562, 3566, and the 3568, truly overall, besides a few percentage points, are really very similar. They're all running that same Mali G52 GPU, and so the results we're going to get on this are very much in the same vein of it. Playing through the games here, I found that this had surprisingly pretty good PSP sort of gameplay, as I show some here. I found that it's probably been optimized in ways. They do have settings set up to go into certain formulations. You can mess with it, but I would probably play it the way they put it in here. and it was pretty good. Nintendo 64 also played pretty good. We're looking at a CPU that is not much unlike the 3566 that we've been seeing for years. Maybe just fine-tuned a little bit with a little bit newer technology and this really good cooling solution to kind of help it reach higher sort of performance levels. Now, the real question here is, at the price point this is running, it's been running on AliExpress at absurd prices. I don't know the official price, but if you see the link I dropped, they are selling this for $80 as the RG56 Pro on Amazon. So I think $80 is a reasonable amount for this. Hopefully it'll go lower than that, especially on Amazon. But you're in that price range with the TrimUI Smart Pro S. And so as I show the two of those side by side, the question becomes, is this better than the TrimUI Smart Pro S? And let me preface it by saying, although I like the Smart Pro S and the improvements, this is a better feeling handheld to hold. It's simply a better feeling handheld to hold. And that's not a knock at the TrimUI Smart Pro S. I still do believe it's a great starter handheld, especially if you pick it up with Mech DIY's pre-populated software. They're SureWish CrossMix. It's just plug and play, and it's going to have a much better software experience than this is overall. But mining this on the chip and the CPU, comparing it with that A527, 523, and this Rockchip 3562, I think they're in the very same vein as far as performance. Yeah, you're probably not going to get PS2 really booted on here, and maybe you can get PS2 booted on that A527, but I really wouldn't count on it. So really, I'm looking at this as a Nintendo 64 Dreamcast PSP machine and what it can do. We do have the appropriate screen here, this 5.5-inch, wink wink, with the bezel, 1280 by 720p, and it's a beautiful screen that plays pretty well. Overall, though, I think this needs much better firmware, and I would encourage the company to send some development units to custom firmware developers so we can get something like Rocknix on this, which would immediately make this way better and a much more value proposition. So as it stands, the software that they shipped with is pretty poor. I don't like it very much. It's useful, but don't expect plug and play. Even for someone like me who has a lot of experience, I had to fiddle with a lot of stuff. I had to load ROMs on here. It just wasn't the perfect situation for me. But let's wrap up this first impressions and overview of this and just sum up my findings on this handheld. Hey guys, sorry to interrupt the video, but I wanted to take a moment to talk about an awesome speaker. This AGM Magrock portable Bluetooth speaker that is IP67 waterproof, drop-proof, and dust-proof. Using Bluetooth, you can use this speaker just about anywhere. It also has a vibrant RGB light show to give it that nice effect that you look for. Best of all, this thing has a magnetic attachment design. And as you can see here, I use this to make my handheld sound glorious. Oh my God, my RG477M has never sounded better. Yes, that's right. This is small, pocketable, portable, and best of all, it comes in at under $50. You can pick one of these up for yourself by hitting the link in the description below. We want to thank Amazon for sending this over and having us take a look at it. Again, this is the AGM Magrock portable Bluetooth speaker, which could be a very good companion to all of your precious handhelds. Back to the show. Okay, so what is the overall verdict of this handheld? Well, first, it is one of the few Linux handhelds that actually has 2 gigabytes of RAM at this level anyways, along with the RG34XXSP. 2 gigs of RAM, I think, is helping in a lot of ways, especially with the performance we're seeing and this nice cooling solution that's given us that little bit of extra oomph that's a little bit surprising in something like Dreamcast or PSP. It is also a superior build quality, which is very nice to hold. Now, turning our attention to this Rockchip 3562, I gotta say that performance in this thing has exceeded my expectations in many ways. With the Mali G52, I think we've got a great pairing here that can do some really good stuff we've looked for a long time at that under $70, $80 price range for Nintendo 64, for Dreamcast, for PSP, which is giving this a good run for its money. And the fact that we have this mini HDMI port, something we've not seen in a while that Anbernic's not even doing anymore on their handhelds, is a good bonus here, giving us that video out ability. I found my software experience to be middling, but because it's Linux, because it's rock chip, I have high hopes that we're going to get some custom firmware on this baby, and we're really going to have a handheld that the community is going to pick up and love. I think a lot of folks are going to be very surprised with this handheld if they actually give it a chance. It is buried in among all of the other handhelds that are coming out, and if this thing had launched a year ago, it would have really, really done well. And maybe it'll do well anyways. I'm not sure. We're in such a saturated market now, it's hard to tell what will work and what won't. But let me say, the manufacturer of this, who also brought us the R36T, that really cool little vertical handheld with the CRT sort of bubble on top, I like what they're doing. Again, they haven't seen this review ahead of time, but I want to encourage them to keep pushing and bringing out innovative products like this. I think it's great. I'm really impressed with what we have here, and I hope to see more of them pushing this in the future. Now, this CPU, the Rockchip 3562 with this GPU, it's not bad. Let's see what people can do to bring the competition, but keep the quality up. We're talking about a build quality that really surpasses anything I could expect at this level, and if we can get the software to match, we're going to have a fantastic handheld that would rival anything Anbernic has done, in my opinion. So that's it. I really found this to be very surprising, minus my software experience. But we've got a beautiful handheld, a beautiful design language that I love, whoever designed this, a build quality that is superior, a cooling solution that works, and a CPU that's newer and is impressing. So overall, I would recommend this, especially if you can get it at the $80 or below price range. This is not worth the $150 it was first showing up on AliExpress, but whatever you can get this at anything below $80, it's a buy from Dead Fred. I think it's a great handheld. I like it quite a bit. I like that it's Linux. I just want it to ship or have better software so that that experience can be improved. But let me know what you think. I want to know your thoughts. Do you agree with that? What do you think of this handheld? What do you think of this color scheme? Leave me some comments. I love when we engage with each other in the community. I really love it quite a bit. And speaking of love, remember, tomorrow's never promised. So hug the loved ones and love the ones you hug because, hey, man, you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. Anyways, we'll see you next time. Deadheads, Dead Fred out.